Derek's DC reboot thoughts.
Exactly. I liked Animal Man. I liked Action Comics. I liked Swamp Thing. I kind of liked OMAC. I know Justin said he didn't care for Legion Lost that much, but it didn't bug me or anything. Suicide Squad I expected to hate, but didn't. Well, you know what else was good? Because you guys liked reading some of the Abnett and Lanning stuff, and Brian did too. But I'd never read the old title, but Resurrection Man was a pretty decent book. But, I thought Static Shock was boring. Batwing, don't care. Batwoman, yeah, the art was nice, but don't really care. Deathstroke, what the fuck. Detective Comics was, wow, that was really violent. Frankenstein Agent of Shade is not my thing. Yeah, they made, Ray Palmer, a supporting character in that. That kind of pissed me off. It'd be like making, Reed Richards a supporting character in Hellboy or something. What? It's like Men of War was kind of weird, too, because it looked like Superman was fighting somebody in the middle of it. So it's like a modern-day war story, but then they've got, superheroes, done Frank Miller style, all shadowed in the background, and it just kind of seemed out of place.
How Liefeldy was the Liefeldness in...
It was pretty Liefeldy. His Dead Man is, horrible looking. But he drew, one of the original Hawk and Dove miniseries. It makes some kind of sense to me in a full circle kind of way.
How is Grifter?
You know what? I don't like Grifter at all. At one point, he, basically decides, nobody knows what's going on and that Daemonites are possessing people, so I'm just going to pretend to hijack this plane so I can get them off the plane or whatever. And I'm just kind of you know what? I don't know. I just don't like that. So I was I was just totally not into the whole premise of it, him being on the run. And it seems like all the Wildstorm characters just seem so out of place in DC land, you know?
Yeah.
Stormwatch I thought was dumb, and Superboy was kind of weird. Red Lanterns was okay. They're kind of reboot in name only. It's Green Lantern was good, but it wasn't a reboot, It was just continuing from where the other series left off. And I felt the same way about, that Batman and Robin that just came out. It's well, Damien's there talking about all the different Robins.
That way lies madness.
But there's already stuff like the Batwoman stuff. And Swamp Thing, they all seem to not really deal with the reboot. So when there's a Teen Titan in Batwoman, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because she talks about having fought Deathstroke and having been a member of the Teen Titans when the Teen Titans haven't officially formed yet. In Swamp Thing, Superman shows up. It looks like they just sort of photoshopped his new armor on, at the last minute. But he's talking like the old school Superman and referring to him having died fighting Doomsday. But yet if you read the first issue of Superboy, Superboy has nothing to do with Doomsday. Superboy is just a clone in the lab that's hanging out with Fairchild from Gen 13. So it's either Doomsday did happen and Superboy wasn't there, or it didn't happen at all and Swamp Thing is contradictory. There's certain titles, they pick and choose what they rebooted, with Hawk and Dove and Mystic One, the Demon Knights or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's they seem to pick and choose what they... It's some stuff they kept, but then other stuff it was oh, yeah, well, we're not going to really let the Madame Xanadu Vertigo series bother us. Justice League, I didn't care for it, but whatever.
What's the deal now, though? I read that Justice League is taking place 5 years in the future, and Action Comics takes place when Superman's just starting, or what's the deal with that?
No, Justice League is supposed to take place 5 years ago.
5 years ago, okay.
Yeah,
so.
And some of them take place in the past. So I'm assuming Action Comics probably, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm betting that takes place 6 years ago or something. And Justice League takes place 5 years ago, given the condensed time frame. They say something in Detective Comics, Batman says, I've been doing this for 6 years. So I'm assuming, if Batman and Superman are, the first, then Action Comics probably takes place 6 years ago. The Justice League International, people are that's a great superhero book. I'm it was bland, it was boring. People complain about, not knowing who anybody is in Legion Lost, but, I read, Justice League International, and I'm why is the August General there if all he's gonna do is just yell at fucking the Russian guy? I don't know, it just seems like a fucking waste. It's like if they put the Red Ranger on Justice League and then just had him, like, make, like, little snide comments. Oh, you drive a Ford? Those are pieces of shit. Hyundais are badass. And you're like, that's the character? And then the other book that they talked about liking was, like, Green Arrow. I'm kind of like, are you kidding me? The people that don't like it, you know, they're like, what? They made him Steve Jobs? You know, like, basically it's like, you know, he's the rich Green Arrow from Smallville. He looks a lot like the Green Arrow from Smallville. And then, you know, he makes his money on, like, Q-pads and Q-pods and all that. Like, the actual comic was just kind of bland. And, like, but I don't know, people, you know, some of the people who had never read comics, they did this little litmus test on CBR, and those were some comics that people said they might actually buy the second issue of. Like, I know I liked Animal Man and Swamp Thing, and I'll probably keep reading those. I'll probably keep reading Action Comics and Batgirl. Red Lanterns and Green Lantern was fine, but like I said, it's not a real reboot. Hawk and Dove was okay. Resurrection Man I thought was good. Suicide Squad wasn't as awful. Like, I thought it was going to be really, really awful, but it was only like, it was like actually okay. You know, I think for as many as were good, I think there's lots of, like, you know how we like made fun of Voodoo? I think there's going to be like a lot of other titles like that where they're probably going to end up tapering off and like not doing as well.
You should do a video of this, Derek.